All right. These cameras aren't here, these lights aren't here, it's just you and I having a conversation.
Okay.
Starting out, just give me your full name and then tell me the tribal nations you're a part of.
Okay, my name's Michael McKibben. I'm primarily Quapaw, and I'm also Peori and Eastern Shawnee.
Excellent. Give me a little bit about your lineage when it comes to your parents, grandparents. You don't have to go into vivid detail, but give me a
Okay.
walkthrough of some of
Okay.
their names and everything like that.
Okay, well, my grandma was Anna Quapaw McKibben, and her father was Solomon Quapaw. And Solomon Quapaw was one of the originals that walked up here from Arkansas. And on my grandma's mother's side, there was Minnie Captain, and there was Tom Captain and Minnie Keno Captain. And the captains were the Eastern Shawnees, and the Kenos were the Peori. And there was two full-blood Indians of different type Indians that married each other, and that's where my grandmother came from.
Wonderful. Could you describe, I mean, when you think back to your childhood and you think back to some of the memories you had, how would you describe your parents, grandparents, just kind of paint me a picture of who they were as people?
Well, my grandmother was a very, very warm person. I enjoyed being around her, but she didn't have much to say about anything. She just kind of rolled with the flow and did what she needed to do, and very little speech out of her. She told me that she had gone to the St. Mary's Catholic mission here as a child, and that was the first time she ever saw a bed. I guess before she went to there, I guess they just rolled up in a corner on a blanket or just whatever they could, but that was the first time she ever saw a bed. And that's where she learned how to speak English and to read and write and all the basic things.
When was the first time growing up that you realized that being part of O-Gah-Pah, this was different, this was special? Do you remember that when you realized that this isn't something that, many people go through?
Well, not necessarily, because mostly that was the only thing I knew. I didn't know of anything else. Now, I was not born here. I was born out in Colorado Springs. But my parents, I came from a broken family. I ended up coming back this direction with my father when everything split up. And that's where I mostly picked up on all the Indian happenings and powwows and everything else at that time. I was still young, but that's where it all began for me.
When you think back to the strong family lineage that you have and grandparents and moving up, is there a sense of, do you have a sense of pride or a sense of honor to carry this legacy?
Well, I'd say in the last 25 or 30 years, I've gotten into the sweat lodges and the Native American church. And to be absolutely truthful with you, there's no place in this world that I'd rather be than in a sweat lodge when it's going. Because that's just the ultimate for me.
Unpack that a little bit more for somebody that's never been in the sweat lodge, that knows nothing about the culture, the history. What makes it special? And before you answer that question, do we need to buzz by just for a second?
Can you hear that?
Yeah,
I can. Just 1 second.
Sorry about that. Our microphone picks up everything, so people are walking around out there. We're just kind of
Okay.
hushing down a little bit. But yeah, I'd like to unpack that a little bit more for people that don't know anything about a sweat lodge, don't know about the cultural value that it has. Why is it important to you? Why is it special to you? Why is that?
It's just
Before you answer, sorry.
Okay.
Sorry. As
Okay.
soon as he comes back in, I want you to
Okay.
answer
Okay.
when he comes back in. Thank you for doing this, by the way.
That's all right.
For taking time. Perfect. All set? All right, yes. And just kind of unpack for somebody that doesn't know anything about the sweat lodges, what makes them so culturally important, and also important to you as a person.
Well, it's the closeness of all the people inside of there, and you're all there to be thankful and to help the world and your families out in your community out with the problems that they have. But you've got such a closeness of the people around you and a closeness with your Creator in there when this is going on, and there's no way I could possibly explain to you that the feeling is that I get from this, but I love it. That's all I can say about it.
Well said, well said. Let's talk about the powwow a little bit. How old were you the first powwow you went to?
That I remember was probably in my teens, 14 or 15 years old.
Do you remember what you first thought about it?
I just knew it was a gathering of people. I never paid much attention to the dances. I just paid attention to my relatives I haven't seen in a long time. As a matter of fact, for some powwows, we would never even make it to the dance arena. We would just all stay on our own camps and visit and talk with each other.
For somebody that's never been to one before, how would you describe it? How would you describe even painting a picture of the sights and the sounds and the smells? How do you describe a powwow to somebody that's never been to one before?
It's just a gathering of a bunch of people that are real happy with what's going on.
What does the drum mean to a powwow?
To me, the drum, it lets me know that I'm home. It really does.
Why do you think that is?
I don't know.
For somebody that's never been to one, what would you say about just the level of family that's there?
Well, you'll just get a very warm feeling from everybody that you talk with, and everybody's basically glad to see you, and they're glad you're there, and they want you to be happy while you're there. They want you to have good thoughts of the place when you leave.
Talk to me about how it's changed over the years since you were a teenager. Is it a lot? Is it the same, or has it changed a good deal?
Well, basically the dancing part of it's basically the same. The camping areas have gotten more congested and crowded, but as far as everything else goes, everything has really improved from the way they were back as far back as I can remember. Everything is a lot better.
Love it. You're doing great. Just a few more questions. I'd like to talk about just O-Gah-Pah as a whole. Do you have a message to the future generations when you think of preserving O-Gah-Pah Nation? You know, what advice would you have for the next generation to preserve the traditions and how important O-Gah-Pah Nation is?
Well, you best learn as much about it as you possibly can, and try to pass it on and keep it going, because you don't realize until you get older that that's all you've got to do. That's what you're here for.
What future do you see for the future for the tribe? Are you optimistic? Are you pessimistic? How do you feel?
Well, things are so much better than I ever thought they'd be. It seemed like they was continuously going downhill until we got up into the 80s, and then things started picking back up, and everything started expanding, and people could actually live in this area and work in this area, which they was unable to for so many years. That's the reason I left, because there was no work around here.
And I don't know where we can go with this, but I'm just going to ask this question and we can kind of figure this out together. But when you think about the obstacles that have faced the tribe over the last 20, 30, 40, 50 years, what are some of the biggest obstacles that you've seen? You just mentioned employment rates and things like that.
Yep.
Are there any other things that come to your mind that have been a threat to the tribe over the years?
Well, mostly the contamination of the environment is not only a threat to the tribal people, it's a threat to the whole country. It's everybody's problem, and it doesn't matter where it come from. What matters is that we get the problem corrected, or we all lose. That's all there is to it.
And for somebody that knows nothing about Pitcher, Oklahoma, tell me what's happened, or the contaminants or anything like that. How would you describe it to somebody that's really ignorant to the matter and doesn't know anything about the contaminants and everything like that?
Well, the best way I can explain what happened there is the minerals in the ground. It works like a jar of nails do that's full of water. And when more water goes in, everything that's coming off the nails has to come back out. And that's what's contaminating all the waterways and everything else in the ground and everything else that comes in contact with. But as far as the people there and everything, the people there did not have to leave. They were not forced to leave. They left because they wanted to and because they was offered a better deal than what they got to stay there. But nobody was forced to leave. That's just what they did. And I mean, I don't know what I would do if I was there, but that was up to them.
Okay.
The sweat lodge part was really interesting to me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious if there is, you may have a better way to ask this question, Mike. As someone who's never been to a sweat lodge, what is there, if any, process to entering into the sweat lodge? If there's a way that, if you go in with a thought in your mind about what you're going to be grateful for, or anything else, the energy that you're taking with you in there, how do you prepare for that?
Well,
when you go into that ceremony.
Well, when you go in there,
And you're looking just right at me when
you confess your problems to the Creator who's in there at the time, and you ask Him to take care of your problems. And when you leave there, your problems stay in there, and you walk away without them.
How long does that process take?
Well, you go in 4 times, and I'd say maybe 15 minutes a time, and 15 minutes between each time. But you'll feel better, and it's extremely hot for anybody that's not used to it.
A few more questions about just your things that have been passed down to you, cultural skills, for lack of a better term. Is there anything, when I list this off, that really sticks out to you that you remember being passed down through the generations when it comes to either pottery or silversmithing, craftsmanship,
Yeah.
art? Would you just expand on what has been passed down to you? What do you remember?
The only thing that my father really passed down to me that I know that he was good at and that he was doing as a craft was he made Indian dies. And he just used cow rib mainly, but I've gotten into that in the last 40-some years, and I make them out of elk horn, and I make earrings and things like that. Not for sale, I just give them to people, and that's what I do.
And what are those used for?
There's a dice game they play in the bowls. I'm sure they probably got some here they can show you.
And have you taught other people how to play the game, and have you taught that as
Well, generally, most everybody you know already knows how, and they teach their children, and it just keeps going on.
Fantastic. When you think about either growing or harvesting or preserving or cooking foods, do you remember any of that being passed down to you?
Nothing that I can think of. Just the Indian corn. That's the only thing I remember him talking about and seeing him do. But that's about the only thing.
Excellent. Just a few more of these. Was there anything specific with raising children, taking care of family, anything like that passed down? Do you feel like that was an important part of your childhood?
I don't know. I don't see how it was much different from anybody else's childhood. Just the difference in the strictness in different families. That's the only difference. And I couldn't see any difference between the Indian culture and the non-Indian culture as far as the way they made their children behave or restricted them or anything else. You're going to have good and bad in all of them, you know?
Absolutely. Last one would just be storytelling. Was storytelling a big part, whether it was in the powwow or just in everyday life? Do you remember storytelling being a big part of your childhood?
Yeah, there's a lot of stories. There's a lot of stories is all I can say about that. There's an extremely lot of stories.
Do you want to unpack any of those stories right
I
now?
don't know. I was trying to think of an easy one.
Or no rush, if you want to take your time to think about it.
There's just been a lot of unexplainable things happen. A lot of things get moved. There's just a lot of things that happen without explanation that a lot of people have told me about. And I've seen some things, matter of fact, I'm still hunting for some things that have disappeared that I know where I left them, you know. And that's happened to me several times.
What kind of things do they attribute those missing things and move things to?
I don't know, but I know where I left them, and I know nobody else had access to them.
Final question is just what the tribe means to you as a person. When you think about the legacy that's been passed down to you, and you think about the family that's around you in the tribe, what does O-Gah-Pah tribe mean to you?
Well, they have the leaders have done so much for their people and bringing them forward and advancing them, and so many benefits are there that was never even thought about back when I was a child. It's just improved so much in that area. Back in my childhood, I mean, you never had anything. And the health facilities. Back when I was a child, you had to drive 100 miles to to see a doctor. And now, 5 minutes, 10 minutes from where you live, there's one, and they're nice to you. They're glad to see you. You don't have to sit there all day long to tell somebody you got a sore foot or something. It's right there.
Are you proud to be a part of O-Gah-Pah?
Yes.
Can you give that to me in a full sentence?
Huh?
Can you give that to me in a full sentence?
Yes, I'm very proud to be a O-Gah-Pah Indian.
Why is that?
Just because of my people and because of the O-Gah-Pah tribe, the way they are right now. And I think that they look after their people and their property better than they ever have before in history.
That's something to be proud of. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about?
No, not really.
Just what would you hope that the next generation would feel about that sense of gratitude?
Yeah, that's a great question.
To inspire them.
Yeah, when you think about the next generation, I guess let's start with the beginning. Do you feel like the next generation has that sense of pride? Do you feel like there is optimism and hope and pride in the next generation?
Yes, I've seen some of the children learn some of these real complicated, what's complicated to me, peyote songs. It just impresses me so much every time I see a young child singing a song that I don't even know, you know, and it just astonishes me. It makes me feel like, well, there is hope. No matter what, there is hope of this going on. And even the young singers and young dancers that are doing that more than I was. They're doing things that I wished I could have done at their age, but I didn't have nobody to help me with anything, you know.
So you're optimistic.
Yes, it's terrible how much, amazing I should say, is how much they have learned and how good and how smart some of them are, and going in the right direction instead of where I'd have been going the other direction at their age at that time, you know.
What do you think the future holds?
it's continuously getting better.
Excellent. All right, that's the interview. Well done.
It didn't take long.
All right,